what happens a lot of times, or during the course of recording records over the course of our careers, going into recording studios, the sense of being in a recording studio with the red light on and the clock ticking and a glass wall and your headphones and far away, the idea is has many layers to break through. And the more immediate you can be from getting your idea from your brain to a place that you can look at it or hear it on record, and the less intimidated you can be by the recording experience, to forget that you're recording, not to worry about it, the greater the possibility of capturing that idea, you know, in its truest form. It can so easily just escape, you know, and that's, I think we found that, you know, just turn it on, turn the machines on and let it rip. Bonjour, je m'appelle Dana Colley, and I play the saxophone and whatever else anyone will let me play. And this is the entrance to High and Dry. As you can see, this is it. There's lots of windows, and that's Billy, who you've probably met. If you haven't, you will. This is the command center. This is where all of the rockets are launched from, here. And the most important button on this entire console is this button here. It's called the panic button. And in case something goes wrong, this is what you do. You press this button. It doesn't do anything, but it makes you feel better. Now we use digital and digital tape, and the rocking horse is very important. For any studio must have a rocking horse, because when you can't think of what to do, you sit on your horse and you think.
Oh, the cassette machine.
Ah, yes.
We should show them.
We should show you the very first recording tool that has almost become obsolete.
It's worth it, though.
But there's nothing like it in the world.
All three of us had them, these machines.
Billy had a friend build this box for his, and the 8-track cassette machine.
Cassette.
You know? Just a little old cassette, 8 tracks on a tiny little tape.
And the deal with it was, that's how we learned to record like this, because tape was so cheap. So that it was always rolling. And then we could take the tapes and give them to each other, because we all had the same machine, and it was very inexpensive. So, you know, every jam and every idea got caught on tape, you know, for better and for worse. And these things sound great because one of the things you do is they redline immediately. The LEDs light up when it's too hot. You just put a piece of tape over it and listen, because the harder you hit that tape, the sweeter it sounds. So for years, and on every Morphine record, there was at least one song that came from one of these machines.
This was donated to us, this organ, the Orgasonic. It's found in the trash, found its way here. And a lot of this stuff that we have here is either part of Mark's collection, or people will drop instruments by they find in the trash, and Andrew will take them apart and try to fix them. But I guess the key is, you know, that as many instruments as there are, there's always something else that you haven't heard and haven't tried, and might hold a secret to what is needed for any particular song. And the most fun about it is the search and trying to experiment with all the instruments we have and finding what works. And every day we start a new project or start something new, and it's I never get tired of that process. It's very exciting to the discovery of sound and how it works together in terms of creating songs or soundtracks. And we're lucky we have this space. It's beautiful. We get to see the sunlight, and the best thing about it is that you don't feel like you're in a recording studio. You feel like you're in someone's loft, and it really makes you feel relaxed when you record. And that seems to get the best performances, when you don't have to worry about the fact that you are recording. And just demystify the whole experience of recording is what we're trying to do here, and bring it back to the people. Music for the people. Our walls are graced with Asa Brebner sculpture, two-dimensional work, and thankfully we have a lot of great friends and great artists who are willing to hang their work here, so our walls aren't as bare as they might be without them.
I live in an imaginary town. I got imaginary people all around me falling down. Now playing an imaginary band. I strum on my guitar with my imaginary hands. Is it my imagination, or is nothing more sublime than a crushed velvet circuit of imaginary time? Whoa, imaginary time.
I was born in Iowa, out in the Midwest. My family are mostly agricultural farmers. Most of my uncles were farmers, and most of them have retired from farming, and only a few of my cousins have remained on farming. But I moved to Boston 20 years ago, maybe. So I used to live in this neighborhood. This is called Beacon Hill. Yeah, we have good roads too.
It started with Mark. He called it High and Dry. It was his title for the loft and his recording studio. So we adopted that name, I would say, at least if it's been in existence at least over 10 years, at least now, I would imagine. Be fair to say. In one form or another.
Boston's a very small town. You know, even though the population of the whole area is large, as a city itself, it's small. And you can own a car, you can find a place to park sometimes. And it's very small city. It has a smaller feeling to it than Chicago, for example, or any of the more really urban cities.
Well, I think it's been hard to create High and Dry in some ways to make it viable. It's been difficult. But the energy, creative energy, has never been difficult. To make it into a viable business has been difficult and continues to be difficult because the state of the economy, a lot of problems with being a musician in the United States, or an artist for that matter, is there's no real validation. There's no subsidies. There's no, money being paid to venues like there is in Europe. So I think it's hard for any independent company to be viable, and even more so if it happens to be a music studio. I think it's even more difficult.
Lori and I had a car accident, or had a snowmobile accident actually, and we spent a few weeks in the hospital, and we didn't have the money to pay for our bills. So the musical community did a series of benefits around town to raise money for our medical bills, and they raised a lot of money and they paid our bills. And that happens all the time here. So it really is a community, and as it gets older now, some of the people have children and they're part of the community and they go to the schools, and some of the musicians teach at the schools, and you start to see that your music has roots in a place, or you start to grow roots with the children, I suppose.
We don't think about the difficulties. We only think about, that we have an opportunity to do what we enjoy doing.
Yeah, and there are lots of kinds of music in Boston, and there are lots of communities of music in Boston, and what High and Dry is only a small slice of a very, very big community of musicians. And we're all friends, and we've all played on each other's records and play in each other's bands. That's why a band like that you saw last night, the Tabletop People, that's how they came to be, because they all play on each other's records, so they know each other's songs, and so they just start performing that way.
High and Dry is a place where a handful of local musicians find themselves on a regular basis, and it's that in itself, I guess, is the validity that we've been searching for, the fact that we all come together. So at least we all can't be crazy.
But one of I think, the more interesting things that I see in Boston that I don't see in other cities is similar to what we saw last night, which is there are these small clubs where music is played 7 nights a week by very talented people. And it's not about the money, because you can't make money in a little show like that. It's about the music. And a lot of these people that play are in touring bands, and they go all over the world, but when they're off the road, they're playing in these little clubs every night. And I think a real, jewel about Boston is the quality of music 7 nights a week somewhere in town. And generally everybody knows where to go on what night, where something really cool will be happening.
The spirit of community at High and Dry, for the most part, is what we all bring to it, and that is the very foundation of what is High and Dry. It's collaborating and listening and supporting each other's music. If somebody makes a recording, everyone hears it and everyone gets excited and everyone, you know, contributes to helping that artist with their record, getting their record out, getting it heard, and making it as well.
But Boston has a great musical history, you know. It's always had a lot of jazz, and that declined in the early 60s to some degree. But when the rock thing began, there was a place called the Rathskeller, where Jonathan Richman played with Asa, and there was a guy named Mickey Clean, and his band was called the Mez, and they were really some of the first people to play original punk music in a club, and it developed a real scene that, you know, was built upon over the years.
I go to an imaginary job. I can't imagine how I ever held this job so long. And now I go to an imaginary school. I got imaginary homework and imaginary rules. Is it my imagination or is nothing more sublime than a crushing velvet second of imaginary time? Whoa! Imaginary time. An imaginary moment unimaginably long, and now we're at the end of my imaginary song.
Culturally in Cambridge, we've lost a lot of our cultural community because the real estate interests are able to evict people unless they're wealthy. You know, so we had rent control in Cambridge under state Massachusetts laws, and then we passed in Cambridge from 1970 to 1994. And during that time, a diverse number of people and kinds of people could live here. Musicians, different ethnic groups, whether from Ethiopia or Latinos or just all around the world, you know, and high income, middle income, low income.
He got screwed all for his love of man. These days couldn't give a damn, give a damn.
Now, it's high income, you know, and there's some low income public housing left, but it's people are evicted. And 2/3 of Cambridge residents are tenants, but the flexibility and openness has been removed, and a lot of musicians and artists are among those who have been evicted from the city, and it's harder to find a place to perform.
For the very last time, you always think, you always plan, you never know.
I'm not sure if there's as many places to perform. Probably similar, but well, we've lost some cafes too. But practicing and being able to live here yourself, if you're a struggling musician, you know, take it away. And many artists in South Boston, there are places in South Boston where artists have communities, and they were getting evicted by their commercial landlords, you know. unless they own the building. Culture takes a hit.
These days couldn't give a damn, give a damn.
If you really speak out and say corporations shouldn't run everything, and 80% of the Americans, including conservatives, think that corporations have too much power, then you're really being a realist and a moderate, not a liberal, not a somebody on the left. You know, you're just being moderate to say, how much more of this can we take? Browbeating by advertising and hard working conditions, longer work hours than anyone in Europe has to, well, not anybody, but, you know, two weeks vacation instead of 4, and on and on and on. I mean, people don't have time to reflect on what's really going on, to participate in their communities, to learn new skills, to form face-to-face friendships. You know, that's a real loss there of human life.
All for his lover man. These days couldn't give a damn. We see what we want to see. We hear what we want to hear. While we pay no attention to the whisper in our ear, we're pretending. We're pretending everything is alright. We fly where we want to fly. We drive where we want to drive. We never saw a neighbor.
Kendall MIT, Kendall.
The bloody massacre in Bangladesh quickly covered over the memory of the Russian invasion of Czechoslovakia. The assassination of Allende drowned out the groans of Bangladesh. The war in the Sinai Desert made people forget Allende. The Cambodian massacre made people forget Sinai, and so on and so forth, until ultimately everyone lets everything be forgotten. In times when history still moved slowly, events were few and far between and easily committed to memory. They formed a commonly accepted backdrop for thrilling scenes of adventure in private life. Nowadays, history moves at a brisk clip. A historic event, though soon forgotten, sparkles the morning after with the dew of novelty. No longer a backdrop, it is now the adventure itself, an adventure enacted before the backdrop of the commonly accepted banality of private life.
Crying like a baby, and I don't mean maybe. I'll tell you there'll be hell to pay. I've been calling names since you've been playing games, and you took my candy away. How could I be so contrary? I'm just whistling past the cemetery. Tell me what is true, do I don't love you? Depends on all my point of view. Since you put me down, I've been wearing a frown, bad mouthing you everywhere.
And I think, once again, to not go too deep too quickly, I think part of what's happening, and for a lot of people who are liberally minded, is that they're not saying this stuff, and it's not being painted as clearly and as, unfortunately humorous as it all is. So, maybe we get more political as we get older, or maybe it's just the times that make people, the energy's got to go somewhere, Andrew and Ace have played together for years in various bands, and maybe even before that, you don't know.
Billy's played with me.
And then, and we've all played on each other's records, so Asa and his art come as a package,
Mm-hmm.
And,
Billy played on the Mickey Clean
record,
which was this guy he was the first band I was in Boston. It was when the Rathskeller, known as the Rat, it's kind of famous punk rock club, and we were kind of the first. We didn't, we didn't call ourselves punk rock. We didn't know what it was, and we just played two chords badly.
Till you let me slip into the abyss of life. Our love was suspended animation, a world complete unto itself. If waking, the awakening causes pain. I awoke from love in the storm and the rain, and in the blindness I saw movies played backwards on my eyelids. The shit of the mind. It's all Maya, so treat your neighbors kind. I didn't see the young modern Germans shooting up in public places. Porcupine quills, as AIDS was sent by God to thin out the plankton clogging up the gills of this monstrous fish. Even with the petty annoyance of the faggot's tragic death, wasting away on urine-stained cots, dreaming of pornography, becoming geography, a small portion thereof, but I didn't think about it till you left.
I know Jesus is on that main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus is on that main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus is on that main line. Tell him what you want. Call him up. Tell him what you want.
It's mostly music. I do have another job that I work at occasionally, where I work with adults with various kinds of mental disabilities. In a residential program, I just help them with the stuff that you need to do to get through every day.
I know Jesus is on that main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus is on that main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus is on that main line. Tell him what you want. Call him up. Tell him what you want.
I do all kinds of different things to make a living. Sometimes it's recording sessions, but I also play with 3 or 4 different bands, and also will go on tour with various people who are looking for side musicians to go on tour for a while, which I really enjoy. But for me, it's really, other than the fact that I sort of have to do it to make a living, I also love the fact that I get to play with so many different people and have so many different musical experiences. It keeps me from getting bored, I guess.
Call him up. Tell him what you want. I know Jesus is on that main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus is on that main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus is on that main line. Tell him what you want. Call him up. Tell him what you want. You can call him up. Tell him what you want. You can call him up. Tell him what you want.
swing it from side to side. Unsafe carnival ride. We'll get it fixed by giants in the night. My door is open wide. After your long climb to high and dry, what you want is a slip.
Started with Tree to Right back in '87. We kind of built our first studio together, and that was one of the first things we did. And so that was Mark and Billy's band before Morphine. And I worked with Dana's band also called Three Colors before Morphine as well. I went to England with them, toured all over with them as kind of a sound man, road manager and stuff. And Morphine came together about, 88 or so, 89. And we just started working on stuff, and I remember, I think it was 90, Christmas of 90. We came in here between Christmas and New Year's and just sort of started cutting the tracks that would become Cure for Pain, but the session went really, really well. We were all really amazed by it, and that's when Morphine really kind of jumped into overdrive. Mark started to call his studio High and Dry along about that time. There's a song on Cure for Pain called In Spite of Me that he did at High and Dry, and that's when he coined the term. He had to make up a name for his studio. I think it was because the high part was because it was up 5 floors up in this building, even over there, obviously. And it was actually in the other side of the building when it started. But it was up high, and it had a great view, and I think dry just rhymes with high. Mark was not a fan of dry recordings. As you know, he was always making me put more reverb on things, so I can't imagine that the dry had anything to do with the sound. And it didn't have anything to do with our drinking habits either. So I think it was just kind of a, high and dry, like, you're shipwrecked, you're on a desert island kind of, and you're on your own, kind of thing like that.
1.
Coyote Bird and House Mouse were dressed up in a pig wig down by Bake Cake Lake. Tough enough in a pig wig. Meanwhile, the mad dad was mad at the bad lad, and the bad lad was sad that the mad dad was mad at the bad lad. Drop the mop, drop the mop, drop the mom bomb on the mad dad.
We are just kind of cis brothers in arms, you know what I mean? I created this place in the old place where Fort Apache was when it was empty for a while. And I created this place to be kind of a professional studio. I think if High and Dry, it's because it's all in one room and there's no control room, it's a good place to record things, but it's a slightly difficult place to mix things and to kind of finish the record. So we've developed a good relationship in that we have a symbiotic relationship in that they often record things and then bring them over here to mix them. We're doing something next week. So we've done 3 or 4 things like this. The Twineman record was like that. They recorded it there, overdubbed it, and then brought it in here. We mixed it in this control room where it's more accurate. It's an accurate control room. You can hear. I have a lot of gear that they don't have and stuff. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. They like to people like to go over there and get that nice vibe of sitting around the big room and the view and everything, and then, you know, it's really good to just come here and kind of, you can hear what you're doing here a little bit better. You know, we're all kind of striving for the same thing that we always have, to try and just get good music out there and, you know, get it recorded without a lot of, you know, frustration for the musicians, and just try to make a place where the recording process is really transparent. You know, you don't have to worry about it too much, don't think about it too much.
Well, it doesn't seem amazing to us, I guess, but we just try to do it fast, to not interrupt the flow of the musicians in the room. You know, let them play, because that's what this room is most, you know, we don't have great gear or anything like that. We have good gear, but it's not, you know, state-of-the-art gear. But the room is so good that the idea is to get the musicians in here, get them playing, get them happy, and then just capture it. And don't waste a lot of time futzing around with stuff. So that's my personal working ethos. Other people might differ, but I'm not as concerned with the quality of the sounds as I am the performance. And this room seems to inspire good performances, so it's the engineer's duty to just capture that while it's happening and not drag people down with, you know, technical stuff. So everybody, Billy has his own way of working, I have my own way of working, Dana has his own way of working. Every engineer who comes in here works a different way, but everybody kind of, I think, has arrived at the same place, which is that this room is about playing, not gear, not recording equipment.
I'm uncomfortable producing. I don't know if that's really what I do. I feel like I assist, and I try my best to understand what the artist or the group of people are hearing collectively, and see if you can get that on the tape. So, you know, the classic producing image we have is somebody who makes all the decisions, and I think that I'm far more comfortable with trying to get a sense of where people are at and making that be a positive experience, instead of thinking that this is what is supposed to happen and try and make that happen.
It doesn't always work. There's some people who come up here to record who are expecting something different, and they don't immediately get it, but after a while.
Moonlit sky, there is not blonde leaf to be heard.
No, I think that it's complex. It's taken on so many different levels, from being a clubhouse to a community of people that play music together, to a concept for a record label, to everything. It's big, so it's hard to be succinct and say it's this or it's that. for the guy standing in this semicircle here. It's a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a great confluence of factors to make a fun place to be, and a place that sounds good. Stuff sounds great that's recorded here because of a lot of reasons.
And it is all Mark's
And that's why
fault.
we're here.
It's all Mark's fault. He's total blame for this whole thing.
Right, because everybody here has recorded here with either their own band or a completely different band that didn't include anybody here, or recorded here regularly with Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So.
With these guys, with this group of people, to me it feels like play. Like, it feels like fun. Like, in a way that I don't think recording usually is. It feels like, just with like when I come up here, it's like going to a playground almost. I mean, you got a grand piano, you have vibes, you have like every kind of electric piano and stand-up bass, and just every kind of guitar. I sort of come up here and I go like, cool, what can I play? You know, like everybody gets this sort of buzz about music because it's a musical place.
Makes
And
you
it
wanna play.
feels like, yeah, let's play. Recording live certainly helps that vibe for me, I think, because there's this sort of instant, what's the word? There's an honesty in the live thing where you're like making a decision in the group to pick something up, and you sort of like, everyone's like, oh, I don't know about that, you know, sort of like, what about that, you know what I mean? It sort of feels like, I don't know, like a team, like we're just playing around, like doing stuff, and all the tools are here.
Well,
Feels
then
like
working
fun.
with a group like this, who know each other so well, every idea is valid. If somebody has an idea, everybody will listen to it for a little bit. But that's the best part, because if the general feeling is that's not working, people aren't shy of saying that's not working, and that's okay. Nobody gets hurt, and pick up another instrument.
I know photography, when I used to play in the darkroom, was so depressing. And it's the same when I got into playing in the first studio. I was like, oh my God, like I have to be creative in this space. It's just so awful and sort of cold and dark and no windows. And to be up here and sort of be able to peer out and sit in front of a window and feel the air move and hear the sounds of the world going around, it feels unconstraining in that way. It feels part of the world, I think, in a good way. I like the space for that
For
reason.
sure.
Yeah. I just come and hang out here, and it would be a great time. That's half the fun.
Well, I know. That's why it's so dangerous. High and Dry could be responsible for breaking up a lot of marriages.
Oh, yeah, I gotta go.
It's getting late.
They know.
Yeah.
I think they do. Do they, Bill?
I'm only human,
One more trip this season, all I need.
You know, running a studio and being a musician, you're used to giving up a lot of things and compromising and doing work for very little money because you enjoy it, I suppose. So, it's kind of like musical social work. It's people without a lot of money helping people without a lot of money do their thing. It's not a business you go into to get rich, that's for sure. But you make some good friends. That is the most exciting part of music to me. And then performing it. So, you know, you have to work with people to be around to make that happen. We're comfortable building it as we go. And people's ability to contribute, everybody has differing levels that they can have the time and the energy to commit to it. I think in a community situation like this, you give what you can and you keep your eye on building it, not on who does what and is somebody having to work harder than someone else. That's not it. It's can you make it happen? And, you know, I think the more you make it happen, the more people understand that it's okay to get involved with it.
Oh, my darling, what have you done? The cruel sea has taken.
Dear Jatel, how's your sun poison? Better, I hope. The water has been very cold so far this summer, and I hope it's going to get warmer. I sure miss all your kids down here. It was raining today. It was raining today. It was raining today. Still raining. Still raining. Still raining. Still raining. Raining. Rained all day.
Rained all day into the noon. Don't look like it's gonna stop very soon. It's coming on tonight. No end in sight. Started last night before the sun. Now I can feel the rain ain't done, ain't done, rain ain't done. Started out this morning, went through the day. I knew the rain was gonna have its way. Oh, what a day had today. Everything was so busy, so many things to do, and so many things to say, and now it's dream time. Pillow holds my head, embraces round my ears, and pulls my head into the sleep world. Yes, into the sleepy world of dreams and things, and now